More players are starting to challenge the values and dollar amounts being placed on new cards entering Magic the Gathering from new sets and how they interact with older, more established cards. The values of cards overall are being challenged, and the market of MTG is going to change. Just when we thought we had MTG finance figured out, everything got turned upside down on its head. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for tuning in with me on the channel today. Guys, for all the new subscribers joining in and helping my channel grow to these levels, thank you so much, guys. This is an amazing journey, and everyone joining and hitting that subscribe button, it's making a real difference. I really appreciate it. To my regular viewers who tune in each and every day, thanks again. And of course, to the patrons and YouTube membership members supporting the channel financially, you guys are awesome. You know it's true. Thanks again, everyone. I can't wait to see if we can reach that 14,000 subscriber goal. It's just amazing. With each and every new release for Magic the Gathering, Wizards R&D and creation departments give us a new set, new mechanics, some old favorites get repeated, and it comes around to the culmination of a new standard set. Now, when this happens, most players would join the hype train, buy these cards, and jump in and just say, I can't wait to try these cards out. But now more players are starting to question those values. Is the card being printed too similar to a card that already existed? Should I bother buying it? Is there real value being attached to that card because Wizards says it is? Because the store is trying to recoup the costs? Because that's where players are at right now. They are questioning those values. Is that card actually hard to get, or is it going to be in every single box? How often is it repeating? Have we seen this mechanic before? Is this card unique enough to warrant that value? This is an interesting time for players to be in the world of Magic the Gathering, because more and more the players are starting to rebel against these types of old world notions of how we valued cards, and they're starting to say, no, come up with something better. Give me a better, a more unique idea, Wizards of the Coast, because these cards aren't quite cutting it. They're a little too easy to get. They're a little too formulaic. We've seen them before, too much of a repeat. And although players do like to see old mechanics coming back, they like to see cards that they can add as additions to cards that already exist inside their commander decks and other format decks they're playing with. So Wizards, this is going to be an interesting time for you to see how your sets go out there. And on today's Card Watch video, we will go over some of these fun cards that they are giving us, some cards that have values coming up, and how they may interact with future sets. So let's get this video started. I hope you guys enjoy the content. And of course, as always, I'm looking forward to seeing your comments in the comment section if you think I missed anything. Let's get it started. The first card I'm sharing with everyone is Urza's Power Plant, and that's from Antiquities. This is an original version that came out in 1994. You can get this land for $7.20 Canadian heavily played. The market is $8.13 US, and it's €8.02 to get this card into your house. But I'm also referring to all the Tron lands for this block, which is going to be the Urza's Mine and, of course, the Urza's Tower. Now, when you put all three together, you get this amazing effect of getting extra mana. And when you have a set like Brothers War coming out, most players recognize this early, got some extra copies if they needed to, but there's always a chance after you see the spoilers and see the giant mechs they've given us that have heavy casting costs, that cards like this may be more valuable to players going forward. And if this doesn't get reprinted quick enough, you can see values on these tend to rise. But the value of which set to buy, the actual long-term value, is still to be determined. Right? We've seen these cards reprinted and the values on all these cards went down. So it just shows that the players aren't willing to bite that it's just worth more money because it interacts with a new set like, you know, the Brothers War. They want to see that this is going to actually have dollar value attached to it going forward to make it that collectible and worthwhile. Players will decide that. Will they go for a VIP version, or are they going to go for like an 8th edition foil style one, I think they did, or are you going to go for an old original one from the first time it was printed? On an open market, players are going to decide this going forward, and things are going to change because players have never been in the driver's seat like this before. It's very, very refreshing, actually. Now, the next card is Cloudpost. This is from Mirrodin. And the reason I'm showing this card, it's not a really expensive card. It's, you know, less than $1 US, okay? The market value is very low, but when you take a closer look, right? Cloudpost comes into play tapped. Add 1 mana to your mana pool for each locus in play. Okay, and the land is called Land Loca. Locus, Loca, whatever. And in the new commander deck for Brothers War, they gave us like Urza's factory. Like they gave a Mishra's factory. I'm not going to put an image up. I'm sure you guys have looked at it. If you haven't, I recommend it. It's kind of a fun thing to look at. And I saw some other videos on this kind of thing where they said, oh, it's, I've always wanted to make this card. I'm going to put this, I think it was the Gavin guy. And they've already created mechanics like this, right? It taps for 1 mana for each land. It's just a repeat mechanic. There's nothing really fancy going on with that. You could just get the Cloudpost and save yourself a massive amount of money. That's the interesting thing is when I see mechanics that are close enough to repeating, it doesn't seem that refreshing to me, although I like seeing the card text say Urza on it. I don't see the value attached to that. So it's just something to think about. You can get lands like this that cost next to nothing and just enjoy an original from Mirrodin. Now, Urza's Saga, Modern Horizons 2, $45 Canadian near mint. Market value is $30.89 US. A foil is $61.95, and it's €33, 62 cents to get this card to your house. When this set first dropped, I didn't really see the value attached. I said it'd be a $5 land. I was totally wrong. I can see it now, but I wasn't looking at it then the way I look at things now. And thank you for the players who helped educate me in some of this stuff. When you take a look and see again with that new Commander land coming out, these kind of cards will work well with it. Okay, they're going to be able to connect well with it, but there's also ways of recasting this after it gets trashed, right? After this card is gone and in your graveyard, there's so many ways to bring this card back now and replay it that you really shouldn't ignore that. Everything from Sarah Paragon to I guess Renin 6, whatever it may be. There are so many ways of getting these lands back into play that you really shouldn't ignore the game effects that this can have. So cards like this, unless it gets a reprint soon, may actually see an increased amount of value and gameplay because this is out there and it is being used by quite a few players now. So this one here, I'm just going to say, yeah, I should have watched it a little more closely, but the value's stayed fairly steady. It hasn't dropped that much either. So that's the good news for players trying to buy it, is this value seems to be at the right price point where players and buyers are meeting in the middle and saying, yes, we agree that this is where it should be. Now, for the upcoming set, Brothers War, they gave us Karn Sylex. Now we have Urza Sylex. Obviously, it's not the Golgothian Sylex of the original, which blows up all the antiquities. But if you take a closer look at the card, this is something to be aware of. It's a 3 casting cost, 2 white, 2 other, exile Urza's Sylex. Each player chooses 6 lands they control. Destroy all other permanents. That includes planeswalkers. Activate only as a sorcery, just like the other Karn Sylex. It's very interesting to see that, number one, they're making you activate this as that whole, like, as a sorcery only. It gives players a chance to react to it. When Urza Sylex is put into exile from the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, search your library for a planeswalker card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Very interesting, right? Isn't that funny that when this thing dies, you exile it. But when it's exile, if I pay 2, I go to get the Planeswalker. This card is going to have a lot of gameplay. Okay, I can see it happening now because I told people earlier when they gave us the new Urza Planeswalker that he'd be killed right away. There's so many ways of getting rid of him. But now with the Sylex, it's kind of like a saving card. You get pieces of Urza out, you let him die, or you wait and go hunting for him later when you've used the Sylex to blow things up. Cards like this, players should expect to see, but the value will probably go down. Okay, I know it's a mythic, but I bet this card's going to settle around the $8 mark. I don't think it's going to hold the value players may be attaching to it right now, especially stores too. Now, for anyone new to the channel, I hate this card. Okay, not for what it does, but for the name. I still don't like Timeless Lotus. I really don't like the name. It should be tapping for 3. That's my own personal pet peeve. But when I'm looking at this card, and I didn't really attach that much value to it in Dominaria United, but now seeing the Brothers War and understanding what they intended for this card was to ramp up mana and give you extra mana to get your Brothers War cards out, which means sales on this card may start to increase. The value players attached to it may be a little bit higher if it can connect to some big, Brothers War beastie card that they want to get out, or a Planeswalker, because there's a lot of heavy casting costs I've noticed in the new Brothers War. So I put this up, kind of realizing that this card may have some future value. I still hate the name. I don't think it's a Lotus, but I understand tapping for the 5 mana is a pretty epic thing to see happen, and players are going to use it for that, even if it's not used for the actual combinations. They want the extra mana ramp mid to late game to really start pumping out big beasties inside certain decks, and I can see it coming along when you can just see the cards they're dropping for Brothers War. So this value will probably stay steady. I don't expect it to drop too much further, maybe the $20 mark, but we'll have to see how players utilize it when it comes out. Now the next card is Mana Vault. This one already has a high value attachment to it, but again, with things in Brothers War and the formats being played, cards like this tend to get bought up. They tend to have more sales, and with this one actually dipping in price right now, you might see more players jumping on board. If this hits into the low 40s, because again, it's been reprinted a few times, you may see players decide to drop in, spend a few bucks, and pick this card up. But at this, on the same time, players may still say this card's too expensive for what it does, and they may let the price fall. Remember, if nobody's buying it, if nobody steps in at a price point they think is reasonable, then it will continue to fall with nothing to catch it but air, because the finance world is changing for Magic, and most people don't see it, right? The stores aren't seeing it yet. They haven't cracked enough boxes and done enough things in the last 3 months to see what's going to happen, but the sales are down across the board. I already know what's happening. On some of the cards we've seen, they're just not picking up the values because players aren't buying stuff right now with their anger toward Wizards of the Coast. Next card. All right, now talking about poison counters, here we have Fynn the Fangbear. I don't expect this card to be a lot of value, but some players may attach value to cards with poison counters because if you look at him, he's got Death Touch, but whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, they get 2 poison counters. Now imagine cards like this in some kind of newer deck, but used with a Johnny Complete or some of the other things with the ultimate ability going off on him with the emblem. Game could end pretty quickly. So certain deck combinations may allow for this card to really be abused, and with enough poison counter things being built into it, it'll slaughter. It'll just go crazy. That doesn't mean we're going to see a lot of poison counter creatures or things in the new set, but just 1 or 2 is all it takes to interconnect cards to add value or take away value from cards that exist, or better cards that are being reformatted in at a higher power level. Power creep can be a real thing in the game. This is a $1.50 card. Now, the Hall of Tagson. This card I've mentioned already. I noticed it earlier. It's not a very expensive card, $1.95, but what we've noticed is, again, those high casting costs that they've given us with the Brothers War. People are going to be using these things to create Power Stones. There may be some value that Wizards thought players would attach to it, but it's way too slow. Okay, you look at that card, it costs 4 to use it. That's ridiculous. Okay, 4 to create a Power Stone. I don't think it's just going to add enough value. Like, it's 4, it doesn't come into play tapped, which is great, but you're going to be using 4 mana and tapping the land to create a Power Stone that taps for 1. And I just think by the time turn 5 and 6 and 7 are around, the game is pretty much decided. I think this is going to be more of a commander card for a mid-game thing where you try to slowly pump up some mana to ramp out some huge creatures. It's the only real use I can see, but that doesn't mean it's going to be worthless. I just don't think there'll be a lot of value attached to it. Wizards didn't make this card good enough to really make it jump in there. If they had made it tap for 3 and do it, or even 2 to make it seem like a really great card, I think you might have seen a lot more playability for it. Now, our next card is, of course, Karn the Living Legacy. With all the creatures we've seen and all the effects going on in the game for Brothers War, it's no doubt that this card will see a little more play. Again, though, the value is not going to be there. He is not good enough to really make him a valuable high-end card. They can make a mythic all they want, but he's not going to be an expensive card. Okay, and you can't attach that much value to a card like this that doesn't do a lot to keep himself alive or keep himself going. Every time I've seen Karn, I've tried to use him a couple times, he just gets destroyed. He never gets going. I have managed to get to the emblem power once or twice, I think, but it was not a game-changing effect at that point. So I see cards like this where people will try to have fun with it. They'll try to mix it up and enjoy it, and they should, but that doesn't make him a valuable card. That doesn't make the value attached to that card say he's going to be amazing and people should spend a lot of money to get him. And our last card, Melira, the Sylvok Outcast. This is one of those cards that may have value going up, okay? Because it's a low casting cost human scout. You can't get poison counters. That's important, okay? Because if you see commander decks that come along with this, this is one of those cards that people may be jumping into. Creatures you control can't have -1/-1 counters placed on them. That's interesting, right? And then creatures your opponents control lose infect. Very nice to know. Okay, you can't get poison cards. It's another way of stopping poison from even coming in. Yes, it's only on one card, but the sales on this have actually started to jump up a bit. It's been noticed on TCG Player. This is kind of happening. And by the way, guys, if you're buying anything on TCG Player, please remember to use my affiliate link found in the description of all of my videos. You just click on the link. It'll take you directly to TCG Player for your shopping experience. And of course, I get a kickback on the channel that does allow me to buy some cards. I really appreciate when players do it. So thank you again, and thank you for considering that if you're doing that on TCG Player. So a very interesting time coming up in Magic as we have these cards being reevaluated. As new cards come out, old cards go to the wayside, just like when sets rotate in and out. Wizards is going to have to do things to establish the value of cards going forward, but they're going to be doing it in conjunction with how players treat the cards. And that's going to be interesting to see players in the driver's seat where they say, I'm not going to spend my money on junk. You better make it good. You better make it interesting. And Wizards got to have some controls in place. Very fascinating. So thank you very much for tuning in. I'd love to see your opinions on this, guys. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow's video. Can't wait to see you guys there. Have a wonderful day today, and thanks for tuning in. And of course, this is that moment in time where I get to thank each and every patron on the channel. Thanks again, guys, for that support you show me each and every video. You guys are unique people. Thanks. You made it to the end. You're here. You're hanging out with me. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here, everyone. Guys, a year from now, 14 months at the latest, it's going to be a great time to be in Magic, to be seeing these changes, these memories of a game we love so much and how it all interacted and happened, and just a crazy time to be alive for this kind of stuff. So you guys made it to the end of the video. You're here. Put that boomstick in the comments section and let me know that you're one of those people that make it till the end. And if you're new and you've never seen the end of my videos, welcome. Thanks for being here. Awesome. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. Have an awesome day.